Hey everybody, welcome back to another live happening Sunday. We are January 6th, 7th, sorry. Happening Sunday, June 7th, I apologize. And as always, we come on here, we discuss real estate, different topics happening. So I'm going to check my sound before we start just to make sure I sound okay. And we're just going to talk about different real estate news happening outside of the norm of the traditional housing market and what's going on, because we kind of see that's kind of ebbing and flowing the same way. And so I figure, why not introduce other things that's happening in real estate and just have some news all around different forms of real estate. And so, hey, what's going on, Dad? So we are going to talk about, of course, Warren Buffett acquiring Taylor Morrison, also Zillow, and the 43,000 listings missing from Chicagoland. And also, we are going to talk a little bit about Ron DeSantis in Florida as far as the property taxes. I know we discussed this before on one of the live, so hopefully you guys let me know your thoughts. I don't know if our friend Corey is here tonight because I know he's in Florida, so he might know a little bit more of what's happening down there as well. Killer Mike, of course, like my cousin brought up last live in regards to the affordable housing, and we're going to talk about that whole model in which he is doing, which is rent to own, and does it make sense to rent to own, and anything else that might come up amongst what we talk about tonight. So let me know your thoughts. Let me know how you guys are feeling. Thank you for joining me this Sunday. If you're new to the channel, don't forget to subscribe to the channel. Also, if you're on the channel watching us tonight, and if you're watching on a replay, don't forget to hit that like button. And if you see this hype thing underneath of us, which is a shooting star, if you have hype points, don't forget to hype the video. Again, liking and hyping the video allows us to get through the algorithm so other people can join in conversation. Or if you like similar topics in regards to real estate, it'll push it and you'll start getting those type of topics also in your algorithm. Hey, what's going on, Kotexita? He said, yay, cracked another 100 in subs. Did I don't even know if I did or not, but I appreciate people, subbing. This past weekend, I was able to attend a YouTuber event, creative collective event. And so I think I got some subs from there. So I appreciate everybody who was able to sub to the channel. Hey, what's going on, Alex? Hopefully your Sunday is going well. All right, so before we start the show, let's do like we've been doing on these lives. We have been talking about what's going on real quick with the mortgage rates, and then we'll get into conversation around different real estate topics. So as you guys can see, rates have gone up again. They probably will, well, they definitely might switch somewhere come tomorrow once the market kind of opens back up again. But we're at a 30-year fixed conventional 6.66, a 15-year conventional 6.3, the jumbo at 6.7. The ARM is at 6.3. The FHA 30-year is at 6.18, sorry. And the 30-year VA is at 6.19. Again, remember, this is national averages in regards to these mortgage rates. So it could fluctuate either up, down, or stay the same depending on the different layers that you have as an individual person. So when you talk to your lender, if you're in the market currently with buying, see where that rate is at. Don't forget, it's always great to shop your loan as well, just like I tell people. And of course, one of my other fellow colleagues, Jen Sylvester, and Jackie as well, we tell people that you definitely should shop around, whether it be lenders, whether it be realtors, just to kind of get a feel of how everybody works and see what's best for you. Because again, it is about you when you are doing real estate. So you want to shop these rates around. Hey, what's going on, Rhonda? Thanks for joining us this Sunday. So you definitely want to shop around in regards to any rates if you're looking to buy right now. And when you are shopping, just, ask the lender, because I know this happened to one of the clients that I'm working with currently. They sent her over a loan, an interest rate, and then they sent her, it was like the interest rate and then the APR rate, and it was a difference in the two, like a vast difference. So I figured somehow she probably was paying some points. So then when I told her to send me over the that loan estimate and what they kind of put out for her, and I saw that it was points that they were attributing to that APR. So I told her to go back to that lender and see if they can give you a par rate. And then the lender had told her like they were charging her a quote unquote premium to get her interest rate down to like the 5.99 bracket. So just make sure when you are shopping rates, make sure they aren't contributing any additional points, because ultimately, if you're in this, depending on how the market is going, where you're at, you could possibly if you're trying to buy down the rate instead of spending your own cash up front with points, try to get the seller, if you can, to give you some seller's credit, and then on the back end you talk to your lender and discuss how much you would need to kind of buy down the rate, so then that way you're not using your own money up front to buy that rate down. All right, so now let's get into this conversation. I don't know if you guys noticed, but it's been a big talk of the town in regards to these listings disappearing off of Zillow. Let me make sure I get on the right one. Off of Zillow as in regards to Chicago. So if you guys don't know, this is all because of Compass acquiring, I think they're also hand in hand with I think I'm saying right. I don't know if I'm saying right. Is it MERD or Mirrored, whatever? But it's basically MRED. It is the Midwest Real Estate Database, which is the MLS. I feel like I'm saying it wrong as far as the acronym. But it says Chicago area MLS suspended data feeds to the home search giant, claiming that the portal violated its licensing agreement by banning a handful of listings. So we will talk about how these listings just disappeared off of Zillow. So if you was a homeowner in a certain part of Chicago, all of a sudden your listing was no longer appearing on Zillow. It says Midwest Real Estate Database made good on threats to Zillow Group on Wednesday, and shortly after 9 a.m., CT announced it had suspended its data listing feed to the country's largest home search portal. MRED frames Zillow's recent moves as an act of defiance by a company that, seemingly due to its own arrogance, demanded the right to exclude select listings it disfavors based on the portal's listing access standards. Zillow has decided not to display 99.98% of MRED's listings on its platforms because it is, in its own judgment, disagrees with the lawful marketing strategy associated with the remaining 0.2% of the listings. So from this point, what they're talking about as far as them agreeing to the last 2% of it, these are like off-market listings. These are listings that Compass per se and the MLS together, they do not want to officially list these listings on the market right away. So because they're not doing a totality of 100%, they decided to not allow any of the listings to show up. It says a press release published by MRD said the MLS also pointed to 9 listing violations Zillow had made, which were in states outside of Illinois. The portal noted in legal filings after Compass and MRD partnered in April that Zillow could have easily corrected to be within the MRD requirements, but instead opted to forego access to 43,000 listings in penalty rather than bow to MRED. MRED, which services Greater Chicagoland, had threatened to cut off the portal's data feed in the market by 12 a.m. Central Time on Wednesday as a part of ongoing feud between the two organizations. As of the early hours on Wednesday morning, new listings from the MLS had appeared on Zillow, according to screenshots posted to the popular industry blog Vendor Alley. But by 9 a.m. Central Time, MRED fired its shot. MRED president and CEO Rebecca Jensen said in a statement that rules enforcement was the most important and difficult responsibility that the MLSs take on behalf of their subscribers and the marketplace. Our rules apply equally to every participant, and we have a duty to educate our participants and vendors, counsel them when they are out of compliance and required that breaches be cured, Jensen added. The question of lingering listings. About 1 hour after MRED made its announcement, listings from the MLS feed were still live on Zillow, but it's not clear what will happen to those listings now. If agents update their listings in MRED, the updates will not be sent to Zillow, leading to potential inaccuracies and listings already published on the site. It says in an email statement, Jensen said that continued display of MREDs or MERDs, I guess I could say MERDs, I think that's how you would say it, listing data is a violation of Zillow's license agreement and federal copyright law, suggesting that legal action could be possible. MERD also assured the public that its listings will continue to be disrupted across thousands of consumer-facing websites, despite the suspension from Zillow. The MLS noted that Zillow's licenses would also be able to continue to access merged services in order to contribute listings and facilitate transactions. Zillow-owned products, including ShowingTime, Dotloop, have not been impacted by suspension. So if you guys don't know, in regards to Zillow, like they said, Dotloop, ShowingTime, Zillow owns these products. So ShowingTime is something that we as agents have when we're scheduling showings on your behalf. So if you see something in our MLS system and you say, hey, I would like to go see this, and we'll say, okay, what's the best time for you to go see it? What day per se, and then we'll schedule it through ShowingTime. So ShowingTime is a product of Zillow, so they can see what's going on. And then also Dotloop. So Dotloop is now the system outside of DocuSign, depending on what your brokerage is carrying. Most brokerages are now carrying Dotloop. That is where we have our contracts at. And that's where we put all our information at. So your name, your phone number, all these different things are in the contracts, and they're digitally in Dotloop, depending again on your brokerage. And so if you get sometimes I know an agent down here has said that there was something Zillow was doing where they were listing things under contract because they might have saw the document in Dotloop before the agent even did it. So something, Zillow is doing things, AI is picking up things. So so if you see stuff happening on the back end, you might think it's your realtor doing it. Sometimes it might just be the AI within the Dotloop system via Zillow might be updating stuff in advance before sometimes your realtor is doing it. Hey, what's going on, Croy? Nice to see you as well. I was just seeing if you were going to be on here tonight to talk about this whole property tax stuff that's happening in Florida. We're going to discuss that as far as Ron DeSantis. Hey, what's going on? Good evening, David. If you guys don't know, David's birthday just passed a couple of days ago. So if you're here live watching us, wish David a very, very happy birthday. Glad that he was able to make it tonight. Let me know your thoughts too, David, in regards to this whole Zillow thing with Chicago and anybody else that's currently watching live. If you're in Chicago, are you currently listing in Chicago? Has this affected you in regards to your listings? But yeah, so Dotloop, Zillow owns that. They own they own ShowingTime. They own another thing called what is it called? It's a CRM system. Oh Lord, I forget what it's called. Dang it. Shoot, I forget. If it comes to me, I'll remember. But they own a CRM system too, Zillow. I forget what it's called. Dispute more than a year in the making. So this has been going on for more than a year as far as the dispute. The trouble between Murd and Zillow began as far back as last spring when Zillow announced new listing access standards prohibiting listings that had previously been selectively marketed, such as those first listed as exclusives via Compass three-phase marketing strategy. So again, this all kind of came out of this whole thing as far as exclusivity, off market, not wanting to list your product within 24 hours, or I think it was either 12 or 24 hours, as far as utilizing that IDX feed to upload it onto those third-party platforms like Zillow. Zillow also owns Trulia. Of course, it uploads to Redfin and different platforms like that. Compass wanted to be able to have that exclusivity where they wanted to list certain listings on just their platform. They didn't want it to automatically go to Zillow. And then they also had this pushback saying, like, what if I have a client that doesn't want their property listed right away? What if they just want to test the market prior on the backhand? What if they're a celebrity client that don't want their information out there? Different things like that. And they wanted to kind of test everything out on that end and have that exclusivity. And Zillow was like, and so let's see. It says disagreeing with these standards, which effectively ban most listings from the mega brokerage Compass International Holdings Chair and CEO Robert Refkin last fall implored several MLSs where Compass has a large presence to terminate Zillow's listings feeds. According to legal filings in the case, Zillow has levied against Murd and Compass. So how would you guys feel if you're currently trying to list your house right now? Because we know Zillow is this big platform, right, that allows accessibility to consumers outside of just the typical agent. Back in the day, of course, we didn't have Zillow. You weren't able to kind of see what's happening around the area. You weren't able to just use the stroke of your phone to be able to, or your computer to go up and down and kind of see different things happening. You weren't able to compare what your house could possibly be by doing your own comparable analysis, using comps around your area of similar like-kind homes that sold that you could possibly think your house could be priced at. Not just using that Zillow Zestimate in which Zillow brings up, because we can't always depend on the Zestimate, because again, we know that just because your house is similar from the data in which Zillow is picking up, if I go inside your house, which Zillow doesn't, I don't know if your walls are knocked out. I don't know if if a water damage happened. I don't know if an earthquake hit it and a tree fell on the roof. So not using that Zestimate, but actually using hardcore data from things that sold that are comparable to yours. So let me know your thoughts if one day you woke up and your listing was on Zillow and then all of a sudden it was gone. Alex said, I vote for Zillow. Okay, so you say you want Zillow. Okay. David said, it is hard to keep track of all the drama with Zillow, Compass, and everyone else. Yes, David, it's so much drama. So I was like, it'd be great because I feel like every Sunday we kind of been repetitive where this market is standing at right now and just typical housing drama. So I was like, well, let's look to other real estate drama. So I think some Sundays what I'll do is I'll just focus on other real estate drama because there's a lot of other drama going on in real estate. It's a lot. A few weeks later, Merv Jensen threatened to terminate Zillow's access to the MLS listing feeds, which they did, as you guys know. Zillow confirmed in November 2025. So as you can see, this has been going on for a year per se or so. That is not enforcing its listing standards in Merv's coverage area due to the unique situation. But in May 2026, Jensen sent emails to Zillow saying Merv, which was now open to agents outside the Chicago area, would revoke portal's access if Zillow did not display certain Compass listings nationwide. So this kind of goes on in regards to this. Is a long, as David said, it has been going back and forth. And now, so it says right here, Compass sellers, not portals, should be controlled. When asked about Merv's move to pause listing data feed access to Zillow, the brokerage leaned into home seller choice mantra. We believe homeowners, not portals, should determine how their homes are marketed. A Compass International Holding spokesperson said, adding that Zillow desire flexibility, transparency, along with the guidance of real estate professional. So this is talking about that whole situation. And I'm going to go on to, because what they did recently as well is, of course, they went back to court and the judge basically turned around and denied Zillow's request for Merv and Compass. Let's see what David said. David said, plenty of drama. Yes, plenty of real estate drama. So much dendrophobia in real estate. I got to know, what does dendrophobia mean? Let me look it up real quick while we're on this live. I never heard of dendrophobia. I'm going to take 1 minute, you guys. Sorry. Thank you. Kotexita. Oh, dendrophobia, if I'm pronouncing it right, is the intense and irrational fear of trees. Okay. Okay. So we're scared of trees. So there's a lot of trees that we're fearful of in real estate. I would be scared of trees too if you had a lot of trees in your front yard and then they fall on your house. But when I looked it up, it said a fear of trees. So it's very interesting. Maybe I need to find another context of it. Sellers don't know squat. Yeah, the thing about Zillow, if you guys, I'm pretty sure most of you guys know because you're very savvy as far as when we come to real estate conversations over here on these lives, that Zillow is also, not only is it a great platform for people who are consumers, right? Zillow, Redfin. I really do like Zillow a little bit more because you can scroll down sometimes, you can click on the map and you can see those comparable sales around. So anything that's yellow is a sold, anything that's red is active, anything that's purple is a rental comp. And so you can see those different things and you can compare it as an actual seller yourself outside of just connecting with an agent. And of course, if you want more further in depth, you connect with the agent. They can do, help you further as far as investigate and also give you more information in detail outside of the MLS or any other public data records. But that's the great thing of having Zillow. So the consumer can be able to do that. Consumer can also go and scroll and see houses prior to them seeing it, whether it be 3D tours, whether it be just pictures. They can also understand if they're relocating in different areas as far as across the country. So if you live in LA and you're trying to get to Georgia, oh, did I freeze? I was just talking about this earlier that I keep freezing on this daggone StreamYard. So I apologize, you guys. So you'll be able to have those advantages, right? And then also when it comes to Zillow as well, if you guys don't know, that agents or brokerages, they pay Zillow. So basically how it goes now is that we as agents will talk to you guys as sellers. If you're trying to sell your house, we'll put it in MLS. It's an IDX fee. When you sign an agreement, it says, hey, are you okay when it comes to marketing that through the IDX fee, which is a technology that helps to facilitate it and outsource it to these third-party platforms, Zillow, Redfin, Trulia, any of these brokerages, platforms, Compass, whatever they kind of land at, that those properties are out. I mean, your property is outsourced to all these other websites, so then that more eyes can be on the listing, right? However, also when that happens, Zillow also allows brokerages and agents to buy zip codes within these areas. So then these agents buy the zip codes, and in turn, when you go to click on tour the property, you're not actually getting in contact with the listing agent. You're actually getting in contact with another agent who is buying said leads. So my thing too, outside of just the sellers in this situation where these listings are removed, if on the other side of the agent, they might have, if they've already paid for these zip codes per se, right, that they removed, then that also creates a business situation there. If you guys don't know, this was also a lawsuit that is in place too. I don't know what's happened to it. I have to kind of dig back into it, but Zillow was actually being sued in regard to their practices when it came to the Zillow Flex situation, like the lead generation situation. And when it came to them making agents to use the Zillow home loan source to try to get clients to go through them. It's almost like a steering mechanism where they're steering them to get them to come to them to get approved for a loan, to then turn around and buy said property all through Zillow. So then Zillow is getting the cut on every platform. So it's very, very intertwining with a lot of things going on. Like dendrites of nerve. Okay. Hey, what's going on, Lang? What's going on? He said branches. Oh, he had branches. I'm like, Lord. David is laughing. He said, you can't be scared of trees in Atlanta. Trees are everywhere. Exactly, right? Atlanta is what the city of the forest, or the forest of the city is one of them. I'm probably saying it wrong. So it's definitely everywhere. He said, I have drones disguised as squirrels planting acorns all over sewer lines. Oh, Lord. It's a lot of sewer lines all over. So we don't want no acorns in these sewer lines. But as you guys can see, Zillow, they did, like I said, the judge denied Zillow's request for the MERD Compass calls emails. The court said the portal request for allegedly conspiratorial communication, hopefully I spelled it right, spiritual, I don't know if I said it right, was unduly burdensome, but agreed to extend Zillow's TRO against MERD. So it says a judge in Northern Illinois has shot down Zillow's request to receive copies of certain communications between Midwest Real Estate Data, MERD, and Compass, the home search giant, which sued MLS and brokerage in May, had asked the court for documents related to correspondence about any MERD rule changes, Zillow and its listing access standards, or the portal's compliance with MERD rights. The portal did source one notable win, however, with the judge granting an extension of its temporary restraining order against MERD. Continue access to MERD's feeds. Zillow filed a motion for an extension of the temporary restraining order against the Chicago area MLS, which prevents MERD from cutting Zillow's access to its listing feed. Judge Throp, is it Throp? I don't know if it's the name right. Granted that motion, which was opposed. The judge, unopposed, said the restraining order will remain in effect either until the court rules on Zillow's motion for a preliminary injunction or until the court grants MERD's motion to comply with arbitration, whichever occurs first. Zillow said the extension of the restraining order was great news, particularly for the buyers and sellers who will continue to have full access to Chicagoland's market through Zillow Porter for the time being. So it looks like from this conversation is basically allowing people to have more time before they kind of cut off the entirety of the listings, which is crazy. Because I do believe, I am with Alex too, as far as I feel like consumers should have the right to be able to see said listings, right? Outside of just waiting for an agent to allow them to do so in person, right? They should be able to see them online. Of course, you always want to see things in person because pictures do tell a story that sometimes is not true. And so I do agree in the sense of having the right to be able to have these listings display. Most of these consumers nowadays, they want to have their listings posted on Zillow because they know Zillow is a big platform in which a lot of consumers scroll all day on them to kind of view every listing happening. Notably, MER did not oppose our motion to extend the order, and we are pleased they agreed not to cut the listing fee again in the meantime. So this is just the same thing that we kind of read. And so it just goes back and forth as far as the judge and everything, and Compass declined to comment. So this is just saying where they're at now. So if you are in that Chicagoland area, you will have a little bit more time before anything else happens as far as cutting listings off. David said, haha. He said, and under the power lines. Oh no, not under the power lines. So let me know your thoughts in regards to the whole Zillow situation and Compass. It's been a big situation happening from last year into this year. It'll probably keep going. It's a back and forth to understand the exclusivity part on Compass, where they don't want to have every listing listed on Zillow, and they don't want to be penalized, where if they don't list everything from the brokerage on Zillow, then all their listings from that particular brokerage will not show up on Zillow. The MLS is also fighting as well, as you guys know, in Chicago. In regards to Zillow, and like I said, when it comes to Zillow, I do think there needs to be more things around the way Zillow kind of corresponds with the agent, not really more the consumer, because I feel like as a consumer, you get a lot from Zillow. Let me know what you feel like Zillow's missing that you might not be getting as a consumer. But on an agent point, like I said, Zillow takes a lot of money from agents, but agents also literally they're putting data in to buy it back from Zillow. So Zillow is winning in so many atmospheres. Zillow is a big public technology platform for real estate. So, all right, the next thing we're going to get into is the Berkshire Hathaway and Warren Buffett and Berkshire Hathaway purchasing Taylor Morris, which is a home building company, and Warren Buffett just purchased into it through stocks, shares inside the stock, and acquiring said this national builder. So it says Berkshire Hathaway acquires national home builder, an $8.5 billion deal. The all-cash deal reflects Berkshire Hathaway's commitment to housing as the company aims to deliver the dream of homeownership. CEO Greg Abel said, it says Berkshire Hathaway Inc. has entered into an agreement to acquire Taylor Morrison Home Corporation, a move that will push Home Services of America's parent company, further into new construction space. The deal announced May 31st is just the latest in a series of consolidation moves that have occurred within the real estate industry over the past year. The details of the deal: Berkshire Hathaway will acquire the Scottsdale, Arizona-based national home builder for $72.50 per common share, with Taylor Morrison's total equity value estimated to be about $6.8 billion, and the total enterprise value pegged at about $8.5 billion, according to a news release. Talks about a potential acquisition began a number of weeks ago. Taylor Morrison Chair and CEO Sheryl Palmer told CNBC June 1st interview, the deal provides the home builder with a capital advantage that allows it to focus on the long game, she said. A once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. Palmer said the deal marks a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to propel Taylor Morrison into its next and most exciting chapter, and promised Berkshire's unmatched capital strength and long-term investment philosophy. And so they said since launching its IPO 13 years ago, Taylor Morrison has built a track record for strategic growth, Palmer said, and it will now be able to scale up in ways that would be not be possible as a standalone company. She could not be more excited about what this next chapter holds for our dedicated team members and partners who make this company extraordinary every day. It says the move builds a best-in-class national home builder led by an exceptional team backed by a trusted reputation for a customer experience beneath the Berkshire Hathaway umbrella, CEO. So what I'm also thinking, because if you guys ever went to any of these new construction sites, especially Taylor Morrison, typically you would have, they would have their own sales team kind of sitting on it. So I wonder now, because they are acquired by Berkshire Hathaway, will they still have that same sales team, or will that sales team kind of intertwine with some Berkshire Hathaway agents because of it being underneath the brokerage now? David said, I think that indicates they are bullish on the new construction market. Yeah, I'm like, it's very interesting, but I was also pulled up this other article that came out a couple years ago in regards to, did Berkshire Hathaway also acquire Taylor Morrison, in the sense of Taylor Morrison has started diving into the whole single family rental market, where it's like rent to build to rent, where they want more people to kind of rent than own. So I'm going to show that article in a minute. So I was like, I wonder if that's like what her saying, the CEO over at Taylor Morrison, is that the long-term game that they want to have some liquidity or something in order to keep being able to fund that without having so much debt or like overhead, like this overhead debt. So it's interesting. Of course, let me know your thoughts, how you guys are feeling in regards to this acquisition, because I have several different thoughts, but one of them is that whole having to free up some space and some money to move capital around to be able to build more of these build to rent communities, so then that way people can rent for the rest of their life and not be able to own, if that's something you want to do. Because as you guys know, it's been happening for years, even just not outside of just housing. But I remember when back in the day when I used to get like computer games, I would be able to go to the store, get CD-ROMs, put it into the computer, and now everything's licensing, right? Everything is like, we don't want you to own anything, we want you to rent it from us, we want you to license it from us. You don't have no stake in anything. So, and I'm like, this is interesting. David said, does Atlanta have a lot of new construction? Yes, we have a lot of new construction, whether it's in Atlanta. Well, I don't want to say much of in Atlanta, but as you kind of get on the outskirts of like the perimeter or around Atlanta, like almost every county has so much new construction, so much delayed new construction, so much new construction coming. And so we are getting pounded. I'm getting pounded every day via email, via person, by every daggone new sales construction agent. I'm like, every day, I'm like, pound. It's like hit me in my head like, dag. I'm like, can I get a break? It's just popping me all over. It says the move reflects Berkshire's longstanding commitment to housing, he added, pointing to the company's 2003 acquisition of manufactured housing company Clayton Homes, which is, I was talking to somebody about Clayton Homes the other day. I don't know who I was talking to. I was on the phone with them, and they were telling me how they are not the best. Clayton Homes is not the best manufacturer home person, and they had a lot of negative feedback. But again, I don't want to down the brand because I don't personally know Clayton Homes. I haven't, but somebody that I know went through Clayton Homes and they had a negative experience. But everybody's experience is different. But as an example of a similar investment, over time, we expect to unify our site built home building operations into a combined platform, enabling us to deliver the dream of homeownership to more Americans. So this is why this is interesting when she's saying homeownership, because yes, Taylor Morrison still does build single family homes, new construction homes to buy around in Georgia, especially if you come closer to the metropolitan area. A lot of Taylor Morrison they're building like townhouses, depending on where. I know in Cobb County we have Taylor Morrison building a lot of townhouse communities. Taylor Morrison stock leaps. So this is talking about the leaps and the shareholders and everything. So that's where it ends at. So in regards to Taylor Morrison, I was telling you, I'm going to show you this other article where they were talking about their build to rent community. And I was like, this is so interesting how, now, of course, they're dipping into that manufacturing home space. They've already dipped into the build to rent community. So I'm like, they are trying to free up they're trying to get more money to be able to create other avenues of whether it is going into manufacturing home, maybe modular building home, I'm not sure, but I know, like they say, Clayton Homes, and trying to get people into housing that way. They have the build to rent stuff. So they're kind of all over the place. So it says Taylor Morrison unveils, this was in 2022. So as you guys can see, it's been happening for a while. Unveils new build to rent brand Yardly. So Scottsdale, Arizona, this is PR Newswire. As one of the first national home builders to venture into the build-to-rent market 3 years ago, Taylor Morrison is continuing its commitment to the space with an unveiling of its brand new name, Yardly. So if you see Yardly anywhere with that trademark, it is Taylor Morrison, and that is their build-to-rent community. Specializing in cottage style for rent homes with private backyard space, these communities inspire residents to live boundlessly. There is so much to be excited about in the emerging build-to-rent space. But above it all is the opportunity to serve more customers at each stage of life by building a home that's just right for their lifestyle. So again, like I always say on these lives, and I always have conversation, everybody is not going to be made to want to own a home. So I'm not saying that you have to go out and get a home, right? Home ownership is not for everyone. However, if you are going to rent, it's just going to be how much will these properties, how much will the rent increase as time goes on? So we know as property taxes go up, as insurance costs go up, as all these things kind of continue to inflate, they will then pass that bill on to you as a renter, similar to what they do with property taxes. But of course, property taxes, in all fairness, if you want more things in your city and your town, you want more, things to come. Like Cobb, we have the daggone Brave Stadium, so now you're paying more city tax, you're paying all these things. But if you want more things to come, you do have to pay. But in renting, I just wonder how expensive will this be after a while, as far as trying to upkeep everything with these single-family homes. It says, with Yarly, we add renters to our lineup of consumers and offer them a unique alternative to traditional vertically constructed apartments. Yarly blends the best of single-family home and traditional apartment concepts by drawing upon Taylor Morrison's production builder strengths and consumer preference knowledge to create a diverse niche housing product for the largely underserved consumer segment of renters. These communities typically consist of single-story, 1 and 2 bedroom homes ranging from approximately 700 to 1,100 square feet and offer low-maintenance living and smart home technology. But the true differentiator lies in the private backyards, complete with doggy doors, perfect for pets and outdoor living, serving as an inspiration for the brand name. Compared to multi-story apartment complexes, our Yarly communities ensure you no longer need to walk your dog on a leash in pajamas each morning, said Taylor Morrison's Build to Rent president Darren Rowe. No more carrying groceries upstairs and no more nosy neighbors above or below you. Taylor Morrison is currently sourcing Build to Rent land in nearly half of its operating markets, including Phoenix, Dallas, Austin, Houston, Orlando, Tampa, Sarasota, Jacksonville, Charlotte, and Raleigh. In total, the home builder is actually involved in developing approximately 15 projects in its collective markets with many other companies in review. So as you guys can see, they're building it. So when it comes to Taylor Morrison down here in this Metro Atlanta area, I have yet to see the Yarly kind of product exist around the Metro Atlanta area, but I haven't been in every spot of Metro Atlanta, right? It's so wide, so big down here. But I can tell you that last week I was helping, like 2 weeks ago, I was helping a colleague of mine's show her clients, do a walkthrough for her clients. And when I came back the other way, it was another build to rent community. And I forget the daggone name. And I went in there to look at the houses. They were single family houses. I don't want to say nothing bad, but the people, when I walked in there, the people were kind of rude. They were rude, but then I guess after a while they kind of was able to settle in. I was like, they weren't very warm and welcoming when I came in there. I was like, you trying to rent these houses out, but you're not very warm and welcoming. But they were saying that their homes were going for, it was a 3 and a 4 bedroom home, single family homes to rent, starting at $2,300 going to $2,600 a month. And they were located in Lithonia. So if anybody comes across, this live has, wants to rent and they don't want to own, and that is your budget, you can definitely try to look in that area, that Lithonia, Conyers area. They've been building a lot of rent to own. Rent to build communities over there, and they've been building a lot of those communities. If you go south, and also if you go kind of like northeast, I would say area. Today I just paid my sidewalk tax for a sidewalk I don't have. Well, they better put a sidewalk in there for you, Cotexita. I'm like, I don't know how that works. Yeah, like David said, how does that work? I need to know too, because if not, go down to the city and tell them to install and put that cement down, give you that sidewalk if you're paying that tax for it. So as it keeps going about inflationary environment, rising mortgage rates create a strain on some consumers' ability to buy, particularly first-time home buyers without equity in existing homes. Opportunities to serve both the renter, buyer demographic, blah, blah. So my whole thing too, in regards to when you do rent, if you want to rent, right? If you don't want to own, it's kind of hard now, because I sit down and I talk with people about this all the time, that it's kind of hard now to be renting and then also trying to own, because you don't have that space to really be able to save no more. As you know, they've done this whole stats where most Americans don't even have $1,000 saved in the bank account. So now if you are trying to purchase a home, but you're paying $2,300, $2,600 a month for rent, and let's just say every month you're only making about, you're bringing home what? Because you have to, some of them you have to qualify 3 times the income. Now I'm noticing some of these built to rent, because they can't get people to always qualify for 3 times the income, because everything's so much expensive. So now some of them are doing 2 times, 2.5 times the income. So let's just say you do $2,600 a month, you do 2 times the income. That's just 2.5 times the income a month. That is, I'm gonna do my math. I should be able to do it real quick, because I believe it's like what, 4,200, no, 5,200. But I'm gonna just see 2,600 times 2,600. I mean plus 2,600 plus 2,600. Yes, 5,200 a month that you would have to bring in. So if you're bringing, let's just say you get paid every month $6,000, right? After net, that's the gross. When you net, you bring in about, maybe, I don't know, this is just me hypothetically saying, so let's just say you bring in 5,300 or whatever. So now all your money is going towards, well, not all of it, but 2,600 is going towards rent, and then any other expenses you have. And it's kind of hard to then put some money aside to save to ultimately get to your dream of owning a house. So I guess if you are going to rent, you just have to be mindful, if your bigger goal is to own sooner or later, to find something more affordable that makes sense if you're renting before you own, just to make sure you're not over leveraging your monthly expenses where you can't even save anything to be able to save up for a down payment, possible closing costs if you can't get them, and different things like that. Rhonda said, people think they don't have to be consumer friendly to people they think need to rent. Yes, I noticed that. I'm like, I went inside to that rent to own community, and they were nice. And of course, I did go in there and I said, hi, my name is Devon Clark. I am a local realtor in the area. I just wanted to come and check out some of your rental properties, because I do get people that reach out to me for rental stuff. I don't service rental clients. However, what I do is that any type of data information I come across of like that community and different things like that, I do kind of put it to the side as information, like grab information. So if somebody comes to me, I can lead them in the right direction. Like, hey, check this out, check this out, check this out, right? Because I don't want to leave them empty, hanging empty without any type of help. So I typically do that. That's why I stopped to try to get some information, see how much things cost and different things like that. But the salespeople in here were not very friendly. Kotex Caesar said, you're charged by the length of your coverage. Commercial is about 3 times as much. Corner lots are even more. We don't want a sidewalk on this block. It's all about the illusion of walkable cities. Oh, okay. Woo. He said the frontage, not coverage. Okay. Well, I'm like, it sucks that you're getting charged for something that's not there, but I understand you guys. You don't want the sidewalks, though, right? Houses on this block, houses only have a 10-foot setback, no room for a sidewalk. Okay, so that makes sense, no room for a sidewalk. But yeah, so that's all about Taylor Morrison. That's my thoughts. Again, my thoughts could be wrong, but it seems like they're trying to kind of get more liquid, get more cash flow in there, and start making other plays as far as in that rent to build community, as they said, also with manufacturing homes. And so see how it plays out. Like David said, a little bullish, but we will see what happens in regards to that. All right, now let's move into the property taxes in Florida. Let's go down here to see what Ron DeSantis is talking about. I think you guys heard about this. It's also talking about, this is just from their news report down here, Fox News, so I don't have all the details. There is an article, there is an actual document that was sent over, and it's pretty long. It's about 20 pages. So what I'll do is, if you guys want to fully read through it, I will attach that article below this video so you can fully read the extent of the property tax situation in Florida. But it says, Florida and Texas are battling for new residents. DeSantis thinks he found an advantage. So they're talking about this proposal for the property taxes, but it's more in regards to this article kind of touches on the homestead exemption. So it doesn't really touch on that whole property tax situation, but it touches more on the homestead exemption. It says Florida and Texas have for years attracted Americans feeling high filling high tax, high cost states with an absence of personal income tax, business friendly policies. Now, Florida Governor Ron DeSantis is betting that reducing property tax could become the Sunshine State's next competitive advantage. As you guys know, I don't live in Texas. However, when I do talk to Texas realtors or people who live in Texas, they tell me that their property taxes are very high. So I guess Ron DeSantis is saying, hey, we can get people to stop moving to Texas and come to Florida if we can kind of do something with these property taxes. Not eliminate them, because they're ultimately not going to eliminate them. I think they're going to start putting certain caps in place and different things. And as he said, also the different home exemptions, raising those price points. The competition for new residents translates directly to political influence, and with population growth affecting everything from congressional representation to electoral college votes. All right, so it says right here, where Americans pay the most and the least in taxes, Florida pushes for expanded property taxes. So the lowest and then the highest in taxes. So the lowest in taxes, according to this map, would be Florida, Georgia, supposedly, South Carolina. So all these kind of Sunbelt states over here, Alabama, Mississippi, Arkansas, as we go Midwest, Oklahoma, Missouri, you got Tennessee, North Carolina, you come up here to South Dakota, you come over here to Idaho and Arizona. So these are the states that pay like the lowest in taxes, property taxes. As far as getting that, it says for like property relief and all those things like that. And then the highest in taxes, of course, we know is California. You go to New York, of course, you go to Vermont, Massachusetts. So you get these like the Northeast states, the higher in taxes. You get some of these Midwest states, Minnesota, North Dakota, Wyoming. Let's see, because David's here. Let's see how Nebraska's doing. Where is Nebraska at? This is Montana. I think Nebraska right here. Nebraska, it says tax collections per resident, $6,600. Is that right, David? So it's kind of telling you where you can see the least. So as you guys know, during the pandemic, a lot of people were escaping different states to kind of push themselves into these more affordable states, like the Floridas at the time, the Georgias coming south, the Carolinas. And because of that, as people keep migrating into states, it only pushes the value of everything up, right? People are coming in, paying astronomical prices for homes. The homes then go up, and in turn, depending on how your state assesses, or your county per se, city assesses your property taxes, you then go from somebody that might have bought a house where a person bought it 30 years ago, let's just say for $100,000. Maybe they were a person of a older age. They had all these exemptions, from the homestead exemption in Georgia to the senior exemption to the educational exemption, depending on what county they live in. And you might have saw that their taxes say $800. You come in, you now buy that house that they pay $100,000 for. Now you 20 years later or 30 years later, you buy that house for $500,000, right? And now everything around yourself that they start assessing, and the property taxes then go up, and you find yourself saying, this tax went from $500 a year, which you probably might have saw in the tax report, because again, she had those exemptions and values and all this stuff was different, to now you're paying $5,000 a year, right? So, and I'm just making a number up, so hypothetically, you guys. David said, we have fairly high property taxes. Most people don't know where we are at. Okay. most people don't know where you guys are at, as far as what you mean, like most people don't know where Nebraska's at on the map. Yeah, I was looking at it, I was like, I know where it's at in this map somewhere, but I was like, where exactly is it at? So I guess I'm probably most people that would try to make sure I pointed it out on the map. But yeah, so let's kind of get back into this article. It says, as Americans continue relocating to the southern states in search of affordability among a bubbling economy crisis, the latest proposal in Florida could become a test of whether low tax states can further widen their advantage over higher tax rivals. So basically, with more and more people coming, sooner or later, these taxes will end up going higher, because as more people come into a place, as you guys can see, if you're in the metro Atlanta area, more people come to Atlanta, everything's going up. The whole thing of even trying to buy a house has gone up in the city, to even rent has gone up in the city. You're paying, thousands of dollars a month for rent, $2,000, $3,000, $5,000 for rent in like condo buildings. And this is in Atlanta, and a place where most people when I talk to people relocating from these other states, and yes, at the end of the day, if you're up north or if you're west in California, it's still cheaper to these particular people, maybe Colorado people, California people, New York people, Boston people, all these people that are shifting down south, they're still finding it affordable to them. But if somebody is just coming south to another southern state, or they're coming west from a western or Midwest state into Georgia per se, they'll be like, this is expensive as far as coming into Metro Atlanta, because the prices are going up, because as more people flock here, it tends to drive up prices, right? Supporters argue it would strengthen Florida's appeal to homeowners, retirees, and businesses while giving it a new edge over competitors like fellow red state Texas. Critics counter that any tax savings must eventually be offset through spending cuts, higher fees, or alternative revenue sources, making Florida a potential case study in both promise and the pitfalls of aggressive tax reduction. The governor is backing a constitutional amendment that would drastically expand Florida's homestead exemption, potentially lowering tax bills for millions of homeowners. And so every state, I don't believe every state has homestead exemption. So make sure you look into your state if you have homestead exemption. Every state doesn't have a homestead exemption, I believe. It says, under the proposal, Florida's existing 50,000 homestead exemption would increase 100 to 150,000 in 2027 and 250,000 in 2028. In practice, the exemption reduces the portion of a home's value that is subjected to taxation, lowering the tax bill for qualifying homeowners. For homeowners, that could translate to meaningful tax savings. For local governments, however, it would mean collecting substantially less revenue from one of the largest funding sources. And so that's where it's at, right? That's the catch-22, right? Typically, again, in your neighborhood, your county, the city, they collect the taxes from the homeowners to then source the things happening in the city to pay for different things like the hospitals, the blah, 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 also build, like I say, stadiums, whatever you want to do in the city. So they will see less sourcing from that. So I guess their whole thing is like, where would that money come from to be able to continue building said city, or what they want to implement as far as their comprehensive plan, whatever they put in place 20 years from now, 50 years from now in that particular city. And so the way I read this too, as far as this homestead exemption, and I could be wrong because I'm not in Florida, but they do something similar like this in Georgia, where if, let's say, your house is worth $300,000 when it's assessed per se, but they're only assessed, instead of $300,000, they only assess $150,000 of it, and then they'll tax it off of the $150,000. So in 2028, if your house is worth, let's just say it went to $350 now it would just be $100,000 that would be taxed. If that's how it's reading, they do something, like I said, they do something similar in certain counties in Georgia. So I don't know if I'm reading that right as far as how they would then put the tax in there, but that's what I'm thinking, because that's what we do in certain counties in Georgia. But yeah, but let me know as far as when it comes to that, if you guys are in Florida, what you guys are feeling about what they are proposing. Taxes, do you feel like it's something that could possibly work? Again, where would you get the additional funds to keep building out the city and paying certain things, getting the roads done, and all those different things, keeping the city lights on? I don't know, whatever's in your city, because they use, the tax and everything. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to do this right here, this particular legislation that they propose. I am going to put it as a link inside the caption, so that way I won't go through this whole reading with you guys. But this is about the property tax and the tax exemptions and everything in Florida that DeSantis has proposed and put in front of legislation. So I just wanted to show y'all that, because I just clicked off of it. I was supposed to put the daggone link in it. I'll find it again and I'll put the link in for you guys. Hey, Miss H, how you doing? Thanks for coming over today. Clark, don't trust the map. LOL. Florida is expensive. I would take my chances on the Midwest. Florida looks affordable until you pay home insurance, car insurance, health insurance, toll tax, Florida flood insurance. Yeah, I'm like that's the thing about, when you're in these states, as far as having people come on here or having these live discussions or in the comments afterwards, let me know their thoughts, because I don't live in Georgia, right? So all these other extra things that you guys are paying, all these inflated expenses per se, is always great to share with other people. So if you are thinking about moving to Florida, this is some things that you could probably encounter. The home insurance being higher, and also some of these home insurance carriers leaving Florida as well. The car insurance, the health insurance, the toll tax, the flood insurance. So all these additional expenses that even though the map shows that it's cheaper, then you allocate all this other these expenses, and you realize that this is still unaffordable for your budget, depending on what you can afford. Kotek C said, I don't understand the draw of the Sun Belt. Other than Florida, Arizona, and parts of Texas, winters are miserable. Yeah, everybody. Yeah, I don't know. Everybody likes to come south, and I don't know. I think at one time the draw of it was the affordability. The cost of living was cheaper, so people were moving to be able to enjoy that leisure of cheap. But now everything's so expensive because as we migrate, things keep going up in cost, right? He said, just teach residents how to use a fire hydrant. Been in Seattle in February. Oh, it's talking about David as far as the program. Hey, what's going on, Debbie? Thanks for dropping by. Drop by to say hi. Hey, I appreciate you dropping by. You said missing Miss Christine. I know. Christina is, if you guys know, if you also follow Christina Smallhorn on Facebook as well, you know that she has relocated to Pittsburgh, and she and her husband are trying to buy a house, but it seems like they keep getting outbidded in the areas in which they want to live in. So I think once they get settled in and purchase that house, she'll be back on it, and she'll be back on her live streams. But she is definitely going through trying to find a house after selling her property in Louisiana. Ms. H says some states have unlimited homestead, and other states have certain amounts of homestead for homeowners that helps them. Okay. Thank you, Ms. H, for the information. So you guys make sure you look into to make sure this is for your state. Like I said, Georgia, we have a homestead, and of course, it allows for relief with property taxes. And we have certain ones. We have regular homestead exemption. We have senior exemption. We have education exemption. We have disabled veteran exemptions. We have different exemptions in regards to homestead. But again, it's based on county. So one thing that people will learn when you come to Georgia, which most people don't realize, is because every county changes. And I don't know how this works in other states. So where you guys live at, outside of the states that I've lived in, of course, let me know how it works in your state. But in Georgia, every county has their different homestead exemptions. And because of that, one county property taxes might be dirt cheap, and then you'll buy another county and it's more expensive. So it's interesting. Seattle has some issues. Trees might be the least of their problems. He said trees might be the least of their problems. So let me know your thoughts when it comes to that tax situation in Florida. And the last thing I'm going to touch on tonight, let me delete this, is last week. It was another topic that was thought about last week, and I forget what it was in regards to, I think Kotek Sita might have said it. But I forget what it was, but I know Lang had mentioned Killer Mike. So if you guys don't know who Killer Mike is, he is a local, well, he was a rapper, shifted into like more of now becoming, trying to rebuild the city, bring back, create more Black businesses, more Black home ownership and awareness in the city of Atlanta. And so he, this is not the right one. Let me stop that one. So he is doing a affordable housing community, which is a rent-to-own community. And so we'll go through that real quick. Let me know your thoughts about, again, we kind of touched on this last slide, but let me know your thoughts about when it comes to rent-to-owning. What just happened? When it comes to rent-to-owning, because I'm very leery with rent-to-owning. Oh, that's probably right, because I keep clicking off it. Okay. But everybody, let me know your thoughts. Let me know if you've ever gone through rent-to-own, if it ever benefited you. Have you known somebody that it benefited in regards to renting to own? But Killer Mike, as it says, known. Let me put this a little bigger for you guys to see. And then we'll get into the whole thing of rent to own real quick, and then we will says known globally for his music, outspoken advocacy, Killer Mike has spent years championing finance, literacy, economic empowerment, and community investment. Said through a growing portfolio, businesses and housing initiatives, he is focused on creating opportunities for people who helped build Atlanta and ensuring they continue to call it home. And so he is talking about the whole thing of I am the American dream. And then he's talking about the restaurant is the part of the broader vision. So he also has a restaurant in the city. I'm trying to get to the part where he talks about affordable housing so we can get to the next part right here. It says, over years, Killer Mike has become Atlanta's most visible advocates for economic self-sufficiency. His efforts have included launching a digital banking platform alongside former Atlanta Mayor UN Ambassador Andrew Young and investing in affordable housing projects on Atlanta's west side. Because yes, him and T.I. had invested in affordable housing for people who were renting as well. He says, I wanted to be an MC. I wanted to rock big jewelry. I wanted to rock fresh glasses. I wanted to be able to, I wanted to be able to be that. He said, and I understand it is that when God gives you favor, God has some favors that you owe, and my life has been trained to serve people. And so it says right here, this year, Render, which is his last name, and his wife, Shay, launched Build to Ownership, a rent-to-own housing initiative designed to help families transform monthly rent payments into a pathway toward homeownership. The program aims to address the challenge that many families face renting for years without building equity or moving closer to purchasing a home. While much of his work has focused on uplifting Black communities, Render says his ultimate goal is to help strengthen communities for everyone else. So again, and this kind of just goes on in regards to that and doesn't go that far. He has built a rent-to-own community. If you guys, let me know your thoughts about rent-to-own. Let me go in the chat real quick because I'm missing some people. All right, let's see. David said, not a fan of rent-to-own. It seems like people get taken advantage of. That's how I feel too. I had this discussion before with my dad about renting to own. I feel like people get taken advantage with rent-to-own. Alex said, try moving east of mountains to desert or Washington. Oh, this you guys talking about Seattle and everything. With a name like Killer Mike, you might want to make sure you pay the rent, right? You don't want him to come in and start going crazy on you with that name. Miss H said, watch out for the rent to own. My niece got taken by that paying, and the person was keeping the money and never paid off that property. Also, some builders have rent to own properties. Okay, looking. Yeah, so what rent to own, I know through some companies that we discussed before, we had like Divvy Homes, they had Home Partners of America, who's now dissolved. They were bought out by Blackstone. Blackstone bought Tricon. Tricon in turn also has a whole other rental community, so they dissolved Home Partners America, and they started transitioning all those homes, either liquidating them and selling them down here in the Metro Atlanta area, or they started transitioning them into Invitation Homes or into what's the other one? Invitation Home. Invitation Homes or Tricon. They started kind of liquidating those things and moving them around, the properties around as far as rental wise. And but with their programs, it was like you had a certain period of time, which typically rent to own is, right? You get a year or 3 years. I know Home Partners America, I believe, or Divvy, one of them might have been up to 5 years. And then you had to either exercise the right to buy said property, or you could then leave and not buy the property. And what they were both doing, Home Partners of America and Divvy Homes, they were buying houses for cash during the crazy pandemic time, and then they were in turn renting them out, and people were paying a higher monthly rent on, like, when they was renting these homes, and then they were saying a portion of that money that you were paying would kind of go into like almost like a piggy bank per se, or somewhere where you can then use that money as like a down payment on buying the home. I don't know. I'm just like, I'm very cautious with rent to own. He said the commonly homes all look the same, may get lost going home to the wrong house at night. Oh, you don't want to go home to the wrong house at night. He said a little too conservative for my taste. I don't know. I don't know if that's what I don't know if you're talking about rent to own with that or not. Miss H, if you were to do a rent to own, I would want to make sure I had an attorney look over the contract. I agree, David. Definitely had an attorney. Hey, sweet lady, and appreciate you being here. He said, hey, I'm late, so going back to the beginning and watch. Yes, go back to the beginning and watch. Hopefully, if anything, have any questions, just put it down below in the comments, and we hopefully will be able to, answer them afterwards. I'm like, you guys are going crazy about Seattle over here. I'm like, I missed the whole Seattle conversation, but I'm like, I feel like I need to go to Seattle now. But yeah, so let's talk a little bit about, also kind of dig into a little bit about rent to own. So if you guys haven't yet to explore that, or if that's something that someone sees us live afterwards and this is a path they want to go down, I do agree with David in regard to getting a lawyer, a real estate attorney, to kind of look over that contract so you understand what you're signing. So Rocket Mortgage put an article out a long time ago in regards to rent to own. Well, not that long, 2025 in November. It kind of explains a little bit about rent to own. Said there are many renters who would like to buy a home but don't quite have enough saved, blah, blah, blah. So it kind of talks about, the whole concept of what you need saved. It says a rent to own home is a residence that you rent for a set period with the intention to buy it down the line. Unlike typical rental agreement, you get the option to purchase the property before the lease expires. This gives renters time to save up for a down payment, potentially improve their credit. Also too, I do see some people that do the rent to own options and they don't improve the credit. I have people that do rent as well, and their whole goal is to buy a house and they were supposed to improve their credit and they don't. I get life happens, so but we got to work as best as we can. If the goal is to create home ownership and you want to be a homeowner, you have to do the best as you can to financially be responsible and to make sure you can get to the goal that you want to accomplish. Alex said, boo to rent to own. He said, boo, rent to own. I agree. I'm with you. I'm with you, Miss H, David, Alex. I'm with you, all you guys. I'm not a fan of rent to own. I don't know. I'm just not a fan of it. I feel like as people, try your best, and I know it's hard, especially in the economy that we're in now, but try your best to save how much you can. If that requires you to stop renting where you're at currently, and if you have that luxury to go home to a parent or move in with a sister or a brother or somebody, an aunt, an uncle, where you can, and they give you that, to be able to save money to get to your ultimate goal, kind of reorganize how you kind of spend your money, right? If you always find yourself going out to like lavish restaurants or going on these lavish trips and buying these, expensive hotel night stays, then cut back on that if you have a goal. I'm a fan of, if you have a goal, you write down what you want to ultimately accomplish and you make it happen, right? So instead of going in this way, because this rent to own is predatory to me. It says, but I'm going to read through it so you guys can understand a little bit more of it. Your rent to own agreement will spell out how long you can rent the home before you must decide whether or not to buy it. Your agreement also requires that you pay an upfront option fee to the homeowners. This might be in your agreement. This fee will typically is typically between 1% and 5% of the home's value, locks in your option to buy the home, and can later be used to reduce the purchase price if you decide to move forward with the purchase. That's not every agreement. Read the agreement if you are going to take this route. Say you pay $5,000 as an option fee, and you and the owner agrees on a $350,000 sales price for the home you're renting. You can apply the $5,000 option fee you've already paid to reduce the sales price to $345,000. This is not with everything. But and it says when you enter into a rent-to-own arrangement, you'll set the rental period with the owner. Rent-to-own agreements tend to be no longer than 1-year leases and are often 2 to 3 years. You'll also set the purchase price of the home and the upfront option fee. So, but as you get into it, I'll also put this link below inside the description. And when you go back, if you want to understand more about rent-to-own, if you decide to take this route of owning a property, it's up to you. Do I like rent to own? I don't. And also, some people that's watching in the live tonight, they don't like the option either. Like I said, the best option, if so, is to be able to try your best to save. And, if you have to, ask a relative, can you move in? Different things, they might have you pay a little bit of, some expenses, but hey, it's better than paying monthly rents where you're trying to save to ultimately get to your goal, which is home ownership. But needless to say, I appreciate everybody being here tonight, this Sunday night, and joining conversation. Like I said, I'll probably do maybe every 2 weeks, I'll probably do more like real estate news things. So we see other things outside of what's happening in the housing market, as far as we would talk about home affordability, housing prices sliding, listings staying active and all these different things, because it's kind of getting repetitive now, because it's a lot of stagnant stuff happening where things aren't moving and things are just trending the same or staying flat. So we'll start to explore other topics outside of this traditional that housing conversation, because this is a real estate channel, so we're going to explore more about real estate topics. David said, talk to someone like Clark to explore homeownership programs that are available. Yes, you could definitely talk to me. I'm here. If you're in the Metro Atlanta area, definitely talk to me. And same with David as well in Omaha, Nebraska area. You definitely want to have a conversation around exploring homeownership programs, options that best suit you to get you to your ultimate goal if you're trying to become a homeowner. Thank you, Ms. H. Have a wonderful night. I appreciate you being here. Cotexita gonna fire up my new freezer tonight. All right. Hopefully it's nice and gets everything nice and frozen and solid and not and it gets everything nice and cold real quickly. Yes, and also be sure to like the stream, as David said. I appreciate you, David, for making sure people don't forget to like the stream. And if you are watching the video back, if you see that shooting star underneath of it, it is a hype button. Please, if you have hype points, hype the video. It helps to push us through the algorithm so people get the chance to enjoy this wonderful live conversation that we have every Sunday at 7 p.m. Eastern time, and also allows you to explore other similar videos if you like talking real estate. And thank you, David. Have a great night. I will see you guys next Sunday at 7 p.m. Eastern time. I appreciate everyone again for being here tonight. Take care. See you soon.